let's start off with the guitars. So this is the one that everybody always sees in all of my videos. Believe it or not, this guitar is actually a very cheap guitar. It's not very expensive at all. It's what they call an LTD, which is the brand. It's an offshoot of ESP, and it's an EC256. This is basically the cheapest Eclipse style guitar that LTD makes, but it looks surprisingly good. It also plays very nicely too. I did put EMG pickups in here. I did this myself. I installed them, which was a huge pain in the ass, and I really would not want to do that again. But I had to put these EMGs in here because I really like the sound of this guitar, which we'll get to in just a minute, and I wanted to try and make this one match the other one as close as possible. And since this guitar is one of my cheaper ones, I decided to just mess with it and try to mod it up a little bit. So in the future, I might try to do more funny stuff to this guitar. But other than these pickups, it is stock and it is a pretty great guitar. I keep this one always in D standard tuning, which is a whole step below E standard tuning, because I like to play a lot of heavier songs like Sad But True and Sabracadabra. And right now I'm working on The Thing That Should Not Be. So I like playing songs that have that more aggressive, lower tune sound, and I always keep this one in the D standard tuning for that reason. Now this one is very similar to this guitar. It's another LTD, as you can see there by the headstock, but it is a more expensive LTD. It's an EC401, so this is about a $700 or $800 guitar, depending on if you get it on sale or what kind of thing they got going on for promotions. And I did buy both of these from Musician's Friend, just in case anybody's wondering. And this one actually came stock with the EMG pickups. And I like this guitar a little bit better than this one for a couple of reasons. First of all, it sounds different. So anybody who plays guitar knows that every guitar sounds different. So even though they look pretty similar, as you can see here, they don't sound the same. They have different characteristics to them. Also, the tuning machines on this guitar are Grover tuners, so they're a little bit better than these stock LTD tuners over here. Although surprisingly, I actually had to replace the whole bridge system on this guitar because I had this weird ringing sound. So this right here is the bridge on the guitar, and I put this in myself. This is a real Tune-O-Matic bridge from Tone Pros, so that was about a $150 piece of equipment right there. But it is a great bridge, and I have had zero problems with it so far. And this weird string buzz I had from my old bridge is completely gone, and this guitar just shreds better than ever now. And it's still my favorite guitar. It's the one I play the most. All right, guys. This guitar is actually my very first guitar. This is what they call a Squier Strat. It does look a lot like a Fender Stratocaster, and that's because Squier is an offshoot brand of Fender, just like LTD is an offshoot brand of ESP. And this was the first guitar I got when I was 13 years old, and I'm a little bit embarrassed and ashamed to say I haven't played this guitar in probably close to, I don't know, maybe 5 years or so. I really don't play it much at all anymore, and if you're wondering why I don't play it, it's basically for one reason: the pickups. The pickups are single coil pickups, and the single coil sound really doesn't match the type of music I like to play, which is a lot of Metallica music. I play Alice in Chains stuff, Motley Crue type music, so these heavier sounds don't really go well with this type of guitar. However, it is a pretty good instrument for how cheap it was, because whenever my parents got this for me, I was 13 years old, and it came in one of those guitar kits that comes with everything. It had the guitar, the cables, the amp, a couple of picks, everything you needed, a tuner to get you started. So that's what I learned guitar on, and my second guitar that I actually bought, I actually don't have it anymore, but I also used to have a Jackson Dinky, which I have since sold because I hated the actual Floyd Rose style bridge on that guitar, which I thought I was going to end up liking, but I actually didn't like it at all. But this is my very first guitar, and I don't think I could ever part with it just because it has the sentimental value of being my first one. Now this guitar is the only acoustic guitar I own, It is a Samick acoustic guitar. I don't really know much about this brand or much about acoustic guitars because I really don't play acoustic much. And this was actually given to me by my grandfather. He got this as a gift actually one year for Christmas, and he started learning how to play it, but it was just too rough on his fingers. He had like arthritis in his hands that just made it too hard to really get good at the guitar. So after a couple of years, he ended up giving it to me once I picked up the guitar. And I play it once in a while. Some of the songs I like playing on this thing are Nothing Else Matters from Metallica. Also, I like playing the Shinedown version of Simple Man, which is a fantastic song. If anybody has never heard that song, you should check it out. That's a good segue for me to show you this. My mom actually got me this poster a couple years ago for Christmas, and it has all of the lyrics from the Simple Man song from Lynyrd Skynyrd in the shape of a guitar. That's a pretty cool gift, huh? Obviously, she knows I love playing guitar, and that's why she got me that. All right, so now let's move on to some of the accessories real quick. And this is not everything. We'll get to everything in a minute. So this box right here is just a box I have of miscellaneous things I need for my guitar. I keep extra picks in here, some screwdrivers, extra tuner, you know, a string winder, just simple things you need to work on your guitar. I actually have earplugs, which I use when I play my big amp over here, which I'll talk about in a little bit because it is pretty loud. And even though it's not loud enough to shake the entire building, which it could be, but I don't play it that loud, it's important to protect your hearing. So here's a few of my pedals. This was actually my first guitar pedal ever, the Metal Zone. And I got this shortly after I got that guitar right there, the black one, because the amp that came with that guitar was absolute garbage, and this was the only way to kind of get that hard rock heavy metal sound out of that amp. And I used this pedal for a long time, even after I got my next amp, which I'll show you in a minute. So I also have this Super Snark tuner, which goes right on the headstock of the guitar here and tunes it right off the vibrations of the instrument, which is pretty neat. These two pedals you always see on top of my amp behind me, and this is a wah pedal that always gets you that sound that you hear in a lot of very famous songs, especially from Jimi Hendrix, the wow 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 sound. That's what gets you that sound. This overdrive pedal also goes with my dual rectifier, and like I said, we'll get to that in just a minute. These right here are very interesting, guys. Probably most people watching have no idea what these are. These little clips come in so handy, and I'll show you what they are right now. Cheap guitars like this do not come with strap locks, and strap locks are a mechanism that you can use to lock the strap of your guitar, which is this thing, on, so that way it doesn't fall off. Because you see, whenever you put this thing on here, let me just try to do this with one hand. Yeah, okay. When the strap is on the guitar like that, this thing can easily come off. It can just slip right off because there's nothing holding it on. And to buy strap locks for a guitar are pretty expensive, actually. A kit is like 150 bucks. But I found this ingenious solution, and what these are is just a piece of plastic that slides right over the top. There we go. So you see that? This thing actually locks the strap in place so it won't come off, similar to what strap locks do. And these were only like, I don't know, maybe 10 bucks or less. So way cheaper than getting strap locks, which has been much better than changing these out to the strap lock system for a lot more money. And some of you might have noticed this over here. This is my little pick tray, and mostly what I have in here are James Hetfield Blackfang guitar picks. I like the 1.14 millimeter, which are pretty thick picks. When I first got them, it felt kind of weird, but for playing the kind of music I like to play, you know, pretty fast and heavy, they are excellent picks, and I can see why James uses those as his signature pick. Those are just some instrument cables over there that we use to plug the guitars into the amplifiers. So first I will show you my second amplifier that was a gift from my parents. They gave me this amplifier probably around the time I was like maybe 14 or 15 or so. It's a PV Bandit 112. It's an 80-watt amplifier, so it gets very loud. It is solid state. It's not a tube amp, but as you can see, it's a trans tube series, which means it does a pretty good job of sounding like a tube amp. It definitely does not sound as good as my dual rectifier, but it is an excellent practice amp, and you really can just plug your guitar straight into this amp and get a pretty good tone out of it right out of the gate. And you really don't need to have any effects processors, but of course I do, because one of my biggest mistakes throughout my guitar playing career was not really understanding all these sounds that I used to hear on the records, all of my favorite songs and artists. So I bought this thing. And this is basically a big guitar effects processor with a ton of different guitar effects and amp modelers built straight into it. And so the idea here is to actually make your guitar or your amplifier, which is this thing, sound like a different amplifier. And it does an okay job, but it's really not that great. And one of the best ways I've found over the years to get the right tone that you want to get is to get a really good amplifier and have really good pickups on your guitar, and that'll always get you like 90% of the way there. But these are the things you learn over the years from playing, and you know, it's cool to have this stuff. I normally keep this thing in the living room. Obviously, it doesn't just sit in my bedroom like this because there's really no room for it here. So I keep it out there to practice a little bit and learn some new songs, and then I'll come in here and really jam out whenever I kind of know the song already. And based on what I've been saying, you can probably tell that my thing I like to do the most on guitar is to just play cover songs. I do come up with my own original riffs and stuff too, but I really like learning other songs. It's just always been my thing with guitar, which is the most fun for me. Now let's head over to the big old Mesa Boogie dual rectifier. This is the amp that everybody always sees behind me in all of my videos, and yeah, it's overkill for an apartment. I don't need this. This is a 412 speaker cabinet. It's a 412 rectifier standard cabinet, but it's the oversized rectifier standard cabinet. So, which means the cabinet's slightly bigger than some of the other rectifier cabinets they make. And this thing is basically made for, you know, giant concerts. And why do I have this? Well, it's kind of a long story, but basically, you know, my favorite band, Metallica, used to use these on stage back in the late 90s, all the way up through the mid 2000s. I think actually until the early 2010 era, they used these on stage. And so did a lot of other popular bands at the time. And I used to watch a lot of MTV when I was a kid, and I was like, that's it. This is how you get the sound. And it's true. This guitar amp does sound amazing. It's an excellent amplifier. And this guitar cabinet was also a gift from my parents one year for Christmas. So thank you to Mom and Dad for buying that for me. And then the actual head of the amplifier here, which is this piece, I bought myself probably about 5 or 6 years ago. And I did buy it used, so I didn't buy it brand new, because one of these brand new right now is like $2,400, guys. And I got this one for like $800. Believe it or not. And it was in pretty pristine condition, as you can see. It worked just fine. There weren't any issues with it. So it is a full-on tube amplifier, which basically just means that it's an old school technology that they run all the old amplifiers off of. So you see all those in there? Those are all glass vacuum tubes that are installed in the back of this amp. And it's what gives this amp its sound and characteristic, and the amp cannot operate without those tubes installed. So obviously this video would be hours long if I got into the whole operation of how this amp works, which I'm not going to do, but take my word for it, it sounds pretty cool. I actually did a video showing the lockdown situation back when we had that in Miami Beach, and I play this thing, so if you want to hear that, I will link it down below so you guys can see me play this a little bit. The playing in that video isn't great, but it is what it is. And then Moving on to my last couple pedals here. Sorry they're upside down for you, but it's easier just to show it like this than to turn them around. I have a delay pedal here and a chorus pedal. And what those do is they basically manipulate the sound of your guitar, and it makes all kinds of really cool sounds, which I'll put up here right now so you guys can hear what it does. So this is what the amp sounds like with these pedals off. And this is what it sounds like when they're on. Pretty cool, right? So yeah, I'm sure anybody who's listened to music in the past can recognize those sounds. You hear that on a lot of different types of records. So it just adds to the nuances of playing guitar and makes it even more fun than it already is. Well, that's all my stuff, guys. So if you have any questions about any of my gear, or you want to see me actually play guitar, check out my Instagram, because I've uploaded some IGTV videos there in the past of me playing some of my favorite cover songs there. I don't upload them to YouTube because they'll copyright them, and Instagram doesn't pay me any money, so I don't care if I upload them there. So go check that out if you want to see me play more guitar, and if you have any questions about my gear, feel free to let me know. In the meantime, check out my next video right over here, and I'll catch you guys over there.